ocean stretched endlessly, a rolling expanse of steel-blue waves shimmering under the morning sun. Far from any coastline, the U.S. Navy's carrier strike group moved in quiet precision, a floating city of power and discipline. Jets roared from the deck of the massive carrier, the air trembling with controlled fury. Yet, beneath the calm of routine operations, a new tension began to rise. Deep within the Combat Information Center, a faint signal flickered across the radar. Distant, uncertain, but deliberate. At first, it seemed like a merchant ship, nothing unusual in these waters. But as the minutes passed, the contact's pattern began to shift, steady, matching the carrier's course at an exact distance. A watch officer leaned forward, his voice low but steady. Contact bearing 142 degrees, maintaining parallel course. The room fell silent. They'd seen this before, and they all knew what it meant. Somewhere beyond the horizon, a Chinese vessel had found them. For the U.S. Navy, this was not just another ship on the radar. This was a test, a slow, calculated maneuver in a growing shadow war at sea. Beijing spy ships had become a familiar presence across the Pacific, quietly observing, recording, tracking every movement of American power. They operated in the gray space between peace and provocation, staying just inside the bounds of international law, but close enough to send a message. Aboard the carrier, the mood shifted. What had been a routine patrol now demanded precision, calm, and control. Every sailor understood what was at stake, not just tactical awareness, but diplomacy at sea. Because one wrong move, one miscalculated signal, could ignite an international crisis.
The ship's advanced radar arrays painted the ocean with invisible precision. Within seconds, the mysterious contact was defined, a mid-sized surveillance vessel, likely of the Type 815 class, the kind China used to shadow foreign fleets. Its electronic signature matched perfectly. The eyes and ears of the People's Liberation Army Navy had arrived. A formal message was prepared, transmitted in a calm, measured tone on open international frequencies. This is the United States Navy vessel, conducting lawful operations in international waters. Identify yourself and maintain safe distance. There would be no threats, no raised voices. Every word mattered. Professionalism wasn't just policy, it was armor. Across the sea, no reply came, but the signal remained. The Chinese vessel held its course, maintaining an exact shadow position, 30 nautical miles behind, silent, patient, observant. The carrier's intelligence center came alive with analysis. Electronic warfare teams monitored the ship's emissions. Signals intelligence mapped its radar sweeps and encrypted transmissions. Even its engine frequency was logged, compared, and archived. Nothing about this encounter was casual. Every hum, every pulse of energy across the water told a story of surveillance, calculation, and power. And yet through it all, the American sailors carried on. Flight operations continued. Maintenance crews worked under the deafening rhythm of turbines. The ship's mission remained unchanged. The U.S. Navy does not retreat in the face of observation. Far across the waves, unseen to the human eye, but clear in every radar sweep, the spy ship continued to follow. Its purpose wasn't to fight, not today, but to watch, to listen, to learn. For the Chinese Navy, this was reconnaissance. For the U.S. Navy, it was a warning.
But the question inside the Combat Information Center wasn't if they were being watched, it was why now. Because in these waters, timing meant everything. Hours passed, yet the Chinese ship remained, an unblinking eye in the endless Pacific. To the untrained observer, it was merely another vessel cutting through the waves. But inside the U.S. carrier's Combat Information Center, it was a ghost that refused to leave the radar screen. Every few minutes, analysts updated their logs, speed constant, bearing unaltered, distance maintained at precisely 29 nautical miles. It was close enough to monitor every launch and transmission, but far enough to claim innocence under maritime law. The carrier's senior officers gathered for an assessment. On the main tactical display, the spy ship's location pulsed like a heartbeat. steady and unwavering. "She's not backing off," one officer muttered. Another replied, "She won't. This is her job." Every detail of the encounter was logged. The U.S. Navy signals intelligence teams began recording the vessel's emissions, radar sweeps, encrypted bursts of communication, low-frequency pulses echoing through the electromagnetic spectrum. The AN/SLQ-32 electronic warfare suite scanned the frequencies, identifying patterns and countermeasures. Type 815 confirmed. Primary arrays active. They're collecting everything. The commanding officer nodded, his face calm but cold. "They want to see how we move, how we respond. Don't give them a show. Give them routine." That word, routine, carried enormous weight. It meant discipline under pressure, silence when provoked, precision in every move. The U.S. Navy had trained for decades to master these quiet confrontations. The carrier strike group continued its operations as if nothing had changed. Flight deck crews launched FA/18 Super Hornets in practiced synchronization. Supply helicopters moved between ships. To any external observer, it was simply business as usual. But beneath the surface, a delicate game of control was underway.
At dawn, the carrier launched an E-2D Hawkeye early warning aircraft. Its massive radar dome rotated slowly as it climbed into the clouds, extending the ship's vision across a 350-mile radius. From its altitude, the Hawkeye's crew could see everything: the spy ship, the open sea, even faint radar traces of distant fishing fleets. "No additional contacts," the pilot reported. "She's alone." Yet, the Hawkeye's sensors revealed something else: a subtle frequency change in the Chinese vessel's transmissions. "They're adjusting their scan pattern," said the signals officer. "Looks like they're focusing on us." The carrier's intelligence officers leaned in. Every time an American jet launched, the Chinese ship shifted its sensors to match. It was listening to the data links, measuring radar returns, analyzing engine heat. Every second was a collection of clues: how the U.S. operated, how it communicated, and how it hid. Down below, the carrier's public address system remained calm. The crew ate, worked, and rested as the Pacific rolled on. But the officers on watch knew what was unfolding: a shadow war of information, where every byte and frequency mattered as much as any missile. Communications officers transmitted another professional message across open frequencies, this time in English and Mandarin. "This is the United States Navy operating in accordance with international law. Maintain safe distance. Do not interfere with ongoing operations." Again, silence. No acknowledgement. Only the faint hum of radio static. As the day stretched toward evening, the carrier's escort ships took up subtle positions: the Aegis destroyer to port, the cruiser aft, both adjusting their radar profiles to mask sensitive signatures. To the Chinese ship, it would appear that the formation was ordinary. In reality, it was calculated misdirection. The carrier's intelligence chief summarized the situation in a quiet briefing. "They're gathering on our radar modes, communication encryption, launch tempos, maybe even acoustic profiles. They'll send it all back to their fleet command. But we're recording them too. Every emission, every change. They're watching us, but we're watching them closer." Out on the horizon, the spy ship gleamed in the fading sunlight. To the sailors on deck, it was just a silhouette against the golden sea. But to those who understood its purpose, it was something far more dangerous: a mirror reflecting strategy, patience, and rivalry. For now, both sides remained within the invisible boundaries of law and restraint, but history had shown how quickly boundaries could fade. The slightest misstep, a false signal, a near collision, an impulsive order, could turn this quiet standoff into an international flashpoint. And as night fell across the Pacific, with radar screens glowing in the dark, one thought echoed through every American officer's mind: how long before observation turns into confrontation? By the third day, the Pacific no longer felt vast, it felt claustrophobic. The Chinese spy ship had closed the distance, now just 18 nautical miles off the carrier's beam. Its hull cut through the waves like a blade, antennas spinning, sensors sweeping across the sky. To the American sailors watching from the deck, it was a constant, unsettling reminder that they were never alone. From the Combat Information Center, the carrier's commander watched the contact trail crawl across the radar. He said, "They're inside the maneuver zone." The operations officer nodded. "They know exactly where to stop, just before we can call it harassment." Every move was deliberate. The spy ship wasn't simply shadowing, it was provoking.
Its radar pings came faster now, more aggressive. It began matching speed changes, adjusting its heading to stay aligned with the carrier strike group. The US destroyer stationed nearby tightened formation, shifting between the Chinese vessel and the carrier, an unspoken warning drawn across the sea. Aboard the destroyer, sonar operators reported faint acoustic signatures, auxiliary engines powering advanced listening arrays beneath the waterline. The Chinese ship was recording not just radar, but sound, every propeller pulse, every turbine rhythm of the US fleet. The destroyer's captain issued the order: activate acoustic masking. Change engine tempo every 15 minutes. Let them record noise, but not patterns.
In the skies above, the E-2 Hawkeye returned from its patrol, replaced by another early warning aircraft. The carrier's deck roared with jet launches, FA-18 Super Hornets lifting off in pairs, maintaining watch from above. Each jet carried both live ordnance and high-resolution targeting pods. Their orders were clear: observe, deter, but never engage. The US commander knew the psychology of these encounters. China's strategy wasn't to fight, it was to record, analyze, and intimidate. Each pass, each radar sweep was a test of American composure. Lose that composure, and China would claim the US had acted recklessly in their waters. Maintain it, and the moral high ground stayed firmly in American hands. But this time, the Chinese ship took a bolder step. Without warning, it cut across the bow of one of the carrier's escort destroyers, closing to just 3,000 yards, a dangerous move even in calm seas. On board, alarms blared. The destroyer's bridge team executed a hard rudder maneuver to avoid collision, waves crashing over the deck as the massive ship rolled. The destroyer's commanding officer transmitted a sharp bilingual warning: Chinese naval vessel, you are operating unsafely and unprofessionally. Alter your course immediately. You are creating a risk of collision. No reply. Only the steady return of radar and the faint, let them. We hold steady. His calm voice steadied the crew. Professionalism over pride. That was the US Navy's creed. Back in Washington, the event was already being reported through encrypted channels. The Pentagon's Pacific Command analysts reviewed every radar track and audio log. The official statement was predictable: routine operations, maintaining safety and professionalism. But everyone knew what these coded words meant. The dance was getting dangerous.
Night fell once again over the Pacific. Deck lights flickered on, painting the carrier in blue and red hues. The spy ship, now just a shadow on the horizon, mirrored every maneuver like a ghost reflection. Sailors leaned over the rails, staring into the darkness, watching the faint lights blink in rhythm. Two giants, locked in silent rivalry, separated only by a few miles and decades of distrust. In the combat center, a young radar officer whispered, "Why do they keep doing this?" The senior chief beside him didn't look up from the screen, because they want to know how far they can go before we blink. That was the truth. It was not about data alone, but dominance. Every close pass, every dangerous turn, every unanswered call was a probe into American restraint. And yet, the carrier strike group remained unflinching, unmoved, and unwavering. As midnight approached, the Chinese vessel dimmed its lights and turned slightly north, vanishing from radar for several minutes. A deliberate act to test the American sensors. Inside the carrier, silence thickened. Operators watched the radar screens, waiting for a return. And when it reappeared, farther away this time, the Admiral exhaled slowly. They've made their point. Now let's make ours. Launch a recon flight. Keep it above 20,000 feet, just enough for them to see it. The order was carried out. A single FA-18 soared into the night, contrails glowing under the moonlight, its lights blinking like a calm but confident warning. The message was clear: we see you too. But as the jet turned back toward the carrier, the question lingered among the command staff. How long before the next encounter went too far? By dawn, the spy ship was gone, but the tension it left behind still lingered. The ocean was calm again, deceptively so. Sailors on deck spoke little, each one knowing how close they had come to disaster without a shot being fired. In the carrier's command center, the Admiral watched the empty horizon. "They'll be back," he said quietly. "Different ship, same game." His words carried no anger, just experience.
This was how modern warfare began now, not with missiles, but with moments. Hours later, a message arrived from Washington. Calm language, diplomatic tone. Continue operations, maintain professionalism. The order was clear. Stay steady, stay silent, stay ready. As the carrier turned toward deeper waters, the admiral looked once more to the horizon. The sea stretched endless and still, but everyone aboard knew the calm was temporary. In the Pacific, peace was just another form of preparation.